good morning, everybody. Yeah, so we have a lovely Easter weekend that we're going on vacation with the Buddha. Yeah, so the Buddha's a very nice person to go on vacation with. He doesn't complain. Some of our friends, we go on vacation with them, and the bed's too hard, the bed's too soft, the food isn't good enough. Buddha, no problem, no complaint. Yeah, and so we will just spend time being with the Buddha, trying to make our mind into a Buddha's mind, and we'll be discussing the far-reaching practices or the perfections of ethical conduct, fortitude, and joyous effort. Okay, so I was thinking today to do ethical conduct, tomorrow fortitude, and then Sunday morning joyous effort. But things always change, so we'll see what happens. Let's cultivate our motivation. So this weekend we're going to be talking about ethical conduct, fortitude, and joyous effort. So let's try for the whole weekend to really cultivate these qualities and make them part of our motivation. So especially with ethical conduct, to have the motivation not to harm any living being, ourselves or others, because everybody wants happiness and nobody wants suffering. So it doesn't matter whose happiness it is, whose suffering it is. We want to work for we wish and work for the happiness of all and the freedom from suffering of all. And we do that because we care about sentient beings, because we want them to have happiness in its causes, which is love, and to be free of suffering in its causes, which is compassion. But we not only have those feelings within ourselves, we want to actually do something to be of benefit to sentient beings. And the best way to do something is to first develop our qualities and to purify our mind of everything that could get in the way of actually benefiting others. And so we generate the bodhicitta motivation, aspiring for full awakening, where we will have the wisdom, compassion, and skillful means to be of the greatest benefit to each and every living being. So take a moment, make that your motivation. So ethical conduct. Some people, when they come to Buddhism, say that ethical conduct, that's a nice word for Sunday school. Yeah. How many of you went to Sunday school when you were little? Oh, yeah. Did you like Sunday school? No. Did you learn a few useful things in Sunday school? A few. Okay. So we kind of equate ethical conduct with Sunday school. Do this, don't do that, because if you do that, you're naughty, you're bad, and you know what's gonna happen to you and where you're gonna go. So be scared. Many people are brought up like that with, with the idea of ethical conduct. That's not the Buddhist idea, okay? So it's really important, I think especially for us in the Western world who have been brought up with the idea of a creator God who is going to punish us and reward us, and there's heaven and hell and all this kind of stuff. To realize, that we may have heard that as kids, or just even been in the culture, although you didn't go to Sunday school, about what Buddhism is talking about is not that, okay? From a Buddhist viewpoint, there is no creator God. The Buddha did not create samsara, did not create nirvana, did not create the path. Yeah. What the Buddha did was to see with his wisdom what existed. Okay? And he saw the samsaric world of cyclic existence, taking one rebirth after the next under the influence of afflictions and karma. And he saw that there was a way out of that situation. That's the path. And when we practice the path acts as the cause, and we experience the result of the path, which, starts out with having a happy life now, a peaceful life now, or a peaceful mind. Even though our life might be in a lot of turmoil, we can have a peaceful mind, and a good rebirth, liberation, and especially to attain full awakening so we can be of the utmost benefit to each and every living being. Okay, so ethical conduct is a step in that path. And it is, somebody once asked His Holiness Dalai Lama, if Buddhism, if you had to subsume the essence of Buddhism in one phrase, what would it be? And he said, benefit living beings as much as you can, and if you can't do that, at least don't hurt them. Okay? Makes sense? Yeah? Is that what you want to teach your kids? Is that what you want to embody yourself? Yeah, we want to embody it. But sometimes we would get more worldly benefit from not embodying that. Yeah, like when you can, do a business deal that's a little bit under the table, but you get a lot of money. Or when somebody harmed you and you're mad and you want revenge. Okay, so yeah, we have that ideal, but we bump into it a lot because we also have a lot of clinging to the happiness of this world. Yeah, the happiness of this life. And so, we really have to do something with that clinging, because it makes us get involved in actions that harm others and harm ourselves. And by doing that, we also distance ourselves from our spiritual goal of full awakening. Okay? So I remember when I learned in Sunday school about ethical conduct, it was about not harming others. Yeah, which is good, definitely, and coincides with the Buddhist path, where we want to learn to cherish others more than ourselves. But I never really thought, and nobody ever said, or if they said, I was out to lunch and didn't hear it, that when we harm others, we also harm ourselves. Yeah. And this is something really to think about in terms of our own experience. Because how do we harm ourselves? Well, when we do things that are unethical, when we take revenge, when we criticize people to their face or behind their back, yeah, how does that harm me? Okay, now, I don't know about you, but when I want to take revenge, I'm like really mad and I want the other person to suffer. They made me suffer. So my concept of justice, which comes from the Old Testament, is I have a right to make them suffer. Anybody else have that idea? I see 3 people who acknowledge it, and the rest of you are. Yeah. Oh, me? I don't take revenge. I don't, criticize people who criticize me. Yeah. You want me to believe that, huh? So how does that harm us? Well, when I'm alone with myself, not when I'm with other people where I can put on a good face that makes me look good, when I'm alone with myself, I have to confront the thought that I'm a person who rejoices in others' pain and who likes causing pain. I don't know about you, but the idea that I could be that kind of person, which is basically what I'm making myself into when I retaliate and cause harm to others and rejoice at that. It's like, oh, I don't want to be that kind of person. How can I respect myself when I take pleasure in seeing other people suffer? Yeah, that's totally against my values, except when I want to get revenge, then values are out the window. But when I throw my values out the window, then again, what kind of person do I become? A person with no values, with no principles. Okay, are you getting what I'm saying? Yeah? So one way that we harm ourselves when we harm others is that we don't respect ourselves so much. Yeah. And there's feelings of regret. But we don't really want to tell anybody else what we did, because if they know what we did, then they wouldn't like us, they wouldn't trust us, they wouldn't respect us. So we sit inside with this regret that feels really yucky, and we can't do anything with it, yeah, except feel bad about ourselves. Okay, is this ringing some bells? Anybody have this kind of mechanism? A few more of you are acknowledging it. Okay, you're with friends. You can be honest. Yeah. So, and when I think about the kind of psychological problems that people often have. Or the troubles that people have. I think a lot of these stem from not keeping ethical conduct. Okay? We don't feel good about ourselves, so then we get into the whole way of talking to ourselves. Oh, I'm such a negative person. No wonder nobody likes me. You know, what's wrong with me? I want to do something good, but I keep on making one mistake. I lie, I cheat people, I'm not honest. You know, it's like I don't feel good about myself. Yeah? And I think many people go to therapy because of this kind of talk that we tend to have of putting ourselves down and criticizing ourselves. Mm-hmm. Now, some people are going to say, well, but it's not my bad. It wasn't my ethical conduct that weighs me down psychologically. It's what other people did to me when I was a kid. Yeah, I was abused. I was traumatized. My parents didn't love me. They abandoned me. They did this. It's the fault of the world that I have problems. Anybody have that? Oh, that rung a bell, huh? Well, I'm sorry, folks. From a Buddhist viewpoint, the psychological problems are not from what others did to us. They didn't cause it. It's how we responded to it, how we reacted to it, that troubles our heart. Okay? People are not going to like what I'm saying. Okay, so just, get your spitballs ready. You can throw them whenever you want. Okay, just throw them over there. But, when I look at my own experience, when I really look at it and I don't allow my mind to get into the blaming mode of others did this to me, others did that to me. Why am I angry? You made me angry. Why do I feel hurt? You made me hurt. Okay. And that's the way we do in our culture, isn't it? Yeah. We are all sweet, innocent, kind, benevolent people, aren't we? Yeah. All of us. And it's other people who make us feel bad, who harm us. And it has nothing to do with my behavior. It has, and the trauma, the depression I experience afterwards has nothing to do with me. It's caused by them. When we think like that, we make ourselves into a victim. Okay, you want to be a victim? That's the best way to think. It's other people's fault. Because when it's somebody else's fault, they did that to me, then there's nothing I can do about it. Because I cannot undo the past, and I cannot control other people's minds so that they apologize, so that they don't do that again. Yeah, I might make myself into a victim. Nobody else makes me into a victim. Yeah, Am I pushing some buttons? Mm-hmm. If I am, just know that that's my job. Okay? Because if you expect the path to enlightenment to be full of light and love and bliss and praise and chocolate cake, you have the wrong vehicle. You're not going to get anywhere, okay? Because from the Buddhist point of view, the problem is in here, okay? If the problem is outside, if the root problem is outside, then we cannot do anything to better our situation, okay? Yes, other people do harmful actions. We may be the recipient, okay? But why am I angry? Why am I hurt? Why do I want revenge? Because those motivations, those feelings are coming from inside. They're coming from inside. So what that means is that we have power to change our own inner experience, because we cannot control others and change them, but we can work on our own mind and change it. Okay? So that is what gives us power to do something instead of just be a victim. Yeah. We get a lot of mileage out of being a victim. Yeah. Because what these people did to me, no wonder I'm a disaster. So don't expect anything more of me. If I have a temper and I blow up, just, you have to live with it. I'm an angry person. You have to live with it because it's not my fault. Yeah, what do you think of that? What happens if somebody says that to you? I'm just an angry person. You have to just live with my anger. Don't ask me to change because I am damaged goods from what happened to me years ago. Yeah, are you going to have a good marriage with a person who thinks like that? Yeah, if you think like that, are you going to have a happy marriage? I don't think so. Yeah. Okay. So the mileage we get out of being a victim is that we then excuse our bad behavior. We excuse our troubling emotions, and we don't try and do anything because it's other people's fault. Okay, so the Buddha's view about this really gives us power to change in our own hearts. Yeah? Okay. And that's what we're going to learn this weekend. Okay. How to change our own hearts. Yeah. And especially the teachings on fortitude are going to do that. Okay. But another way, okay, so that was about how what's going on in our mind right now in this life, yeah, is related to unethical behavior and experiencing the result of it. But, yeah, also from a Buddhist viewpoint, why do we wind up in certain rebirths? Why do we have different experiences in our lives? Yes, other people and the environment are a cooperative condition. Without what other people do, without toxic waste and so on, okay, those problems wouldn't be the same. But the principal reason that we experience bad outcomes is because of our own unethical behavior, either earlier this life or in previous lives. Okay, so I'll tell you a story, my own experience, how I had to deal with that. When I first heard about Buddhism, I thought, oh, karma, yes, that idea, it makes sense, it's good, very good. Yes, I want to practice the Dharma. And then, okay, I was at Kopan, Lama Yeshe and Zopa Rinpoche's monastery in Nepal. I went there for the course. And after the course, I started feeling ill. And it wound out that I had hepatitis A, the hep that you get from eating dirty food, okay, food that wasn't clean. So, yeah, I don't know if any of you ever had hep A? It's miserable, okay? You have no energy. You're just like, okay. So at that time, this was 1975, 76, at Kopan, the room I was staying in had the ceiling of my room was just boards with space in between them. And that was also the floor of the room of the people staying above me. So that when they walked, I heard, when they talked, I heard everything. And when they swept the floor, I had snow in my room. Okay, so I was lying in that room, miserable. There were no bathrooms at that time. Where you did your business was you had to go outside your room and down the hill a little bit. And there were 3 big holes in the ground. Okay, and you chose one of them. They had straw mats on all 4 sides and 2 boards across that big hole. I won't tell you what's in the hole, but you can smell it. And in the middle of the night, if you have to go, you walk where you're going, you watch where you're going, and you find those 2 boards and you put your feet on them and you make a contribution to what lies below. Okay? So for me, just going to the bathroom was like climbing Mount Everest. That's how little energy I had. So I'm lying there and somebody comes in with this very thin book called The Wheel of Sharp Weapons. Anybody know that book? Yeah. Okay. It's quite a wonderful book, and I did a commentary on it in later years called Good Karma. That was the title the publisher wanted. I didn't like the title. I like Wheel of Sharp Weapons better. But anyway, and that book talks about, one part of it, when you experience this kind of experience, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning upon you for things you have done in the past. And then it describes what kind of actions the type of actions we would have done in the past that brought that result in this life. Okay? So the idea of the wheels of sharp weapons, apparently it's an ancient Indian idea of Indra, or somebody had a wheel with weapons on it. You threw it out, but it was a boomerang. and you throw it out and the boomerang comes back to you. So the idea is whatever we did to other people, or whatever things that negativities we did in the past, leaves a seed in our mind, and that will influence who we're born as, what we experience in our life, the kind of environment we wind up living in, our habits. It influences things in the future lives. So it's like a wheel of sharp weapons. We do something, and if we do a negative action, that goes out because we hurt somebody else, and then it comes back, and we experience the karmic result of our own negativity. Okay, so I get to verse 9 or 10, somewhere around there, and the verse says something to the effect of, when your body is in pain and you are really ill, this is the wheel of sharp weapons returning full circle upon you for harming the bodies of other living beings. And I went, oh, because I had thought that, why was I sick? Because the kitchen didn't wash their vegetables very well. Okay, there was a young Nepali man who was very competent cooking the food, but who was chopping the food? All the little monks. Do little children wash their hands well? Mm-mm. So I thought, okay, this is why I got help. But now this verse is telling me, no. Yeah, that was only the cooperative condition. Why was I susceptible to this virus? Because I had harmed other living beings in the past. So, okay, previous life, I don't have any memory of, but even in this life, sweet little innocent me, such a sweet child. Yeah, in the summer, I had a contest with my brother about who could swat the most flies. So I killed a lot of flies, and I beat my brother. Yeah, so I swatted more flies than him. Congratulations, children. What kind of victory is that? I said to myself with sarcasm. But also I remembered that I wanted to help my parents, and they had a garden, and there were so many snails in the garden eating their, their plants. So being a nice, sweet kid, I want to help my parents. So I collected all the snails, made a big pile of them, and then jumped on them and killed them all, feeling very proud of myself. So yes, I harmed the body of other living beings. Yeah. Well, you can say they're just flies and snails, but flies and snails also want to be happy and not suffer. Yeah. I mean, bugs, you can see that. When you come to a fly with a fly swatter, they run away. They don't say, oh, this is going to be so blissful. Go ahead and swat me. No, they're terrified. Yeah, they run away. The snails, what do? They contract inside their shell. They want to be safe. They want to be happy, just like us. Yeah. So yes, I had harmed living beings. And who knows what in the world I did in previous lives. Yeah. So this was my waking up to the whole idea of karma, and that I am responsible for what I experience. I cannot go through my life blaming others. it was a big wake up, and it totally changed my attitude towards Buddhism, because before it was like, oh, I like Buddhism, I should practice the Dharma. You know that lovely word, should. Yeah, I should. But now, after I saw, oh, I'm the one who's responsible, then it's, I need to practice the Dharma. Yeah. So my whole attitude changed. It wasn't should, it was need. Yeah. Because there was some truth in this practice, in these teachings, and they applied to myself, and so I needed to act according to what made sense to me when I really thought about these teachings. Okay. So, yeah, this lesson about karma, I can tell you more. I'll tell you another story, because I like telling stories, because it makes it, you see that the Dharma is personal. It applies to our life. It's not just what we do on Sunday morning and then the rest of the week we work for our own benefit. Okay, it applies to our life. So when I first ordained as in India, and I had very little money, and so little money that I had to ration my toilet paper. You are in bad straits when you have to ration your toilet paper. Don't you agree? You know, because we I want to use as much toilet paper as I can. When you have to ration it, you can't, because you don't have enough money to start buying more and more rolls. Okay, so I was rationing my toilet paper. That's how poor I was. But I had to go and buy groceries every week. And when I walked down the hill to the marketplace, I passed a row of lepers. Yeah. So, you know, when you live in a community for a while, you see all the familiar faces. So the lepers become familiar to you. And they're sitting there, you know, with kind of, ever seen lepers' hands and legs? I mean, it's been eaten away by the disease, and stumps, dirty stumps for fingers, dirty stumps for legs, because, you know, and the face is deformed and everything. It's a horrible disease. And they were begging. And, you know, I had just heard teachings from Geshe Nawandargi that morning about the benefits of generosity and sharing with others and caring for others. And I said, oh, that's wonderful, you know, to be a person like that, a bodhisattva, where, you know, you just give and it's so easy. And, you know, I want to be like that. But as soon as I got to the beggars, there's a problem here, because they want 25 pesa, which is, how do I think in euros? Anyway, it's like that much of a euro. Very little. It's enough to buy a small cup of tea. But when I got to the beggars, my mind, despite listening to the teachings all morning and be filled with inspiration, suddenly went, no, I can't give them any money because I don't have very much. And then Geshe Nawandargi was, you know, had the teachings in my ear. But Geshe, you don't understand. I don't have much money. You know, and there would ensue what I called a civil war, internal civil war. One part of me saying, give them 25 pesa. You're poor, but they are even poorer, and they're sick. They need it more than you do. And the other part of my mind going, but if I give away, I won't have it. Okay, that is what you call stinginess, miserliness. I have many more stories of my miserliness that I can entertain you with. But maybe this one, I don't know, might suffice, might not. So, it's like when push came to shove, I couldn't just have good values and think, oh, a geshe latat, I want to be like that. Because in the face of it, when I have the opportunity to give, my mind goes like this, yeah. So we have to work with our mind, so that we really see the benefits of being generous and see the fault of being stingy. It wasn't until years later, when I lived in France, the nuns had the horse stables at Vajrayogini Institute. Yeah, cold. It was cold in that building in the winter. And I didn't have enough money to pay for heat. And so I started thinking, I don't have enough money to pay for heat. There were other people who had heat in their room, but not me. And what's the cause of lack? Why don't I have, why don't I have enough money to pay for the heat? Because I'm stingy. Because I'm not generous. I keep for myself out of fear instead of giving to others. So I had a little talk with myself, and I continue to have little talks with myself whenever this comes up. Explaining to myself, this whole idea of karma, that when I am stingy, I am creating the cause to be poor. And then in the teachings, I read that Nagarjuna said in his text, The Precious Garland, that ethical conduct is the cause of good rebirth, and generosity is the cause of wealth. Oh, yeah, this is how karma works. No wonder I don't have enough money for the heat. Yeah, it's my own karma. I created the karmic cause. So that means I have to change. You want to hear another story? Or are you sick of my stories? This one's also about stinginess. I told you I had a lot of stories about it. But, okay. So fast forward from that incident to 1994, 95, I was teaching the Dharma in Eastern Europe. And one of the places that we were passing through, we were going from Belarus to Donetsk. You've probably heard of Donetsk because of the war in Ukraine. It's in eastern Ukraine. We had to pass through Kyiv, and that's more in central Ukraine, to get there. So we got on the train. I was traveling with the translator. And we got off the train in the morning at Kyiv. We were going to be there the whole day and then take the night train to Donetsk. And the translator had a friend who lived in Kyiv. And so he called her. Her name was Sasha. And she said, well, come over and spend the day with me. So we went over. I didn't know Sasha at all, but she welcomed us with open arms, and she fed us, and she showed us a little bit of the city, and I could see that she was dirt poor, but she took out the special goodies, that you save for company, or that she saved for company, that I would save for myself. Um, the things she saved for company, and she shared them with us. So we had a really nice day with Sasha. And then we get on the trolley to go to the train station. And Sasha and I were about the same size. And I was wearing a maroon cashmere sweater. Now, that may not sound like much to you, but when you are a nun, finding things in maroon is not a given, because they don't make our robes at Macy's, and I don't know what your big department stores are here, but they don't sell our robes. And sometimes even things like sweaters, if the color this year is blue, forget about getting a maroon sweater. So I had this sweater because previously I had been in Japan, and giving talks, and somebody had given me a maroon cashmere sweater. Yeah, right color. I needed it, and cashmere. Wow. I was used to, scratchy sweaters. Cashmere is so soft. I love that sweater. And I wore it a lot, and I had it on this trip. So, yeah, Igor, Sasha, and I are on the trolley going to the train station. And this thought enters my mind that says, give Sasha the sweater. We're the same size, And immediately another thought came, no. Well, give Sasha the sweater. She would like it. No, I need it. I need it. Come on, children. So, this is another civil war. Yeah, internal civil war. Come on, children. She was so kind to you all day. I can't give her the sweater. I need it. She took out all the best things that she had for you, the best food, and gave that to you. Yeah, I know that. I'm grateful for that, but I can't give her the sweater. I'll be cold. So, they're chatting on the trolley. I'm having my private civil war. We get to the train station. Yeah. Igor and I are going, finding the platform. And Sasha says, I'll join you in a minute. And she goes off. So I'm saying, okay, we're at the train station now. Children, come on, you can give it to her. Just take it out of the sweat. I had packed it. Take it out of the suitcase. No, because we're at the train station. I can't open the suitcase in the train station. We get to the platform. Sasha comes back with sweetbread. Yeah, the Ukrainian version of what do you call your pastry here? The kind that's sweet with maybe some jam in it, something. Yeah, yeah. We call it Danish, but you aren't Danish. Yeah, we call it Danish pastries. It could be Dutch pastries. Okay, so Sasha had gone, and with the little money she had bought us this sweetbread for the trip. And I'm going, children, come on, give her the sweater. Well, we're at the platform. I can't take the sweater out now and give it to her because the train's going to come and we have to get on the train quickly. Children, give her the sweater. But no, I can't do that. We get on the train. Okay, the sweater's still in my suitcase. The suitcase is under the bed, Children, take out the suitcase, give her this. I can't do it. I can't do it. No, no, no. Finally, but why can't I do it? Because if I take out the suitcase, Sasha's in the compartment, and the train's going to start to move. She'll have to jump off, and she won't have the sweater because I'll be opening it, and then she'll get hurt jumping off the moving train. Yeah, I am very good at creative excuses. Yeah. Finally, I get down, I pull it out, the suitcase out. The train still hasn't started moving. I pull out the sweater. I give Sasha the sweater. Her face lights up. She was like, wow, a cashmere sweater for me? And I was going, children, why were you so resistant? Look at the joy she has from just having this sweater. Look how you were able to do something that gave another being such joy. Okay, so the train's starting to move. Sasha gets off with the sweater. We go to Donetsk. And, that's a whole other story, what happened in Donetsk. Yeah. It's interesting, when you travel to give Dharma talks, you wind up with more stories than you went there with, because these crazy things happen. Anyway, no, I've got to tell you, it's such a good story. Yeah, okay, you have to forgive me. Okay, so I won't tell you what happened in Donetsk, except that I got a cold. And so we're riding the train back. Again, it's an overnight train from Donetsk back to Kyiv. So we're sharing, Igor and I are, in one side of the mirror. And there's two, I don't know, they must have been Russian men on the other side. So we wake up in the morning, and the Russian men, guess what they do first thing in the morning? They take out their bottle of vodka and they start drinking. Yeah, that's what I said. And I'm sick, and these guys are so generous, they have no problem with stinginess like I do. And they said, "You're sick, let us give you some vodka. You'll feel better." Excuse me, sir, I am a nun, I have precepts, I do not drink alcohol. Come on, have some vodka, you'll feel better. I tell you, sometimes you make an excuse when people push something on you that you don't want to be polite, but there was no way I was going to drink vodka, And so I had to, really insist, no, as they kept insisting, yes, no. Anyway, we get to Kyiv, finally. Get off the train. Who's waiting for us at the train station? Sasha. Yeah, it's warm. It happened, spring was coming. That week the weather had changed. What's she wearing? The maroon cashmere sweater, even though it's warm outside now, because she loves that sweater. I just it's like this. Yeah, I think you get the idea. Okay. So, when we don't keep good ethical conduct, we cause others pain and we create the karma for our own misery. Okay, as those stories vividly illustrate. Yeah. So we'll get into this more when we talk about fortitude, because fortitude, they used to translate it as patience. I don't like that translation, because to me, patience means you're in a hurry, you want to get somewhere, and you have to wait for somebody. So you're impatient, and people say, be patient. That's not what that paramita, that perfection, is about. So I like the word fortitude, because fortitude implies that you have inner strength. Yeah, you can bear difficulty. So, yeah. So we'll get into that, how to bear difficulty. It could be the difficulty of our own karma ripening on us. It could be the difficulty of illness. It could be the difficulty that we encounter even when we're practicing the Dharma. But we'll get into that. Okay, so ethical conduct. I thought that what I would do after that short introduction is read some of the things from His Holiness the Dalai Lama's series of books called The Library of Wisdom and Compassion. And volume 6 is called Courageous Compassion, because to have compassion, you need to be courageous. Yeah. Sometimes we think, oh, compassion just means, oh, I'm so sweet. I don't harm anybody. I forgive you even when it's you harming me. People, compassion makes you into a doormat. Those are all very, very wrong views of what compassion is. Yeah. Compassion means you want all living beings to be free of dukkha. That's how I translate the word that is usually translated as suffering. It's the Pali Sanskrit word. So I'm not translating it, actually, I'm using their word. Okay, so compassion is we want beings to be free of dukkha. We're looking at the long term, yeah? Every kind of suffering, and every kind of unsatisfactory experience. Yeah. If you're really looking in the long term for what is best for other living beings, sometimes you have to risk your reputation because you say things to people that they need to hear that they don't want to hear. So you have to be courageous and be willing for others to not like you because you said something that pushed their buttons. Okay, so yeah, compassion is not for wimps, actually. So the book, it's called Courageous Compassion. So you have to be courageous to really keep good ethical conduct. So, if you know about the perfections, the first one is generosity, and the second one is ethical conduct. So we kind of already talked about generosity, even though it wasn't in the title of the course. Okay, so this is what His Holiness is saying. So I thought to read it and comment on it. So ethical conduct evolves from generosity, because if we are generous, not attached to our possessions and not greedy for more, then we will not harm others to get things. Boy, is that true. Yeah. In the supplement, Chandrakirti emphasizes the first type of ethical conduct in which we abandon naturally negative actions. That is, actions that when done when ordinary beings are almost always motivated by afflictions. Okay? So it's going to enumerate these actions. I think you've probably heard most of them before, so I won't go into them in depth. Of particular importance is abandoning the 10 non-virtuous paths of karma, the first 7 being naturally negative actions of body and speech. So killing other living beings, stealing, we call it stealing. It's translated literally, it's taking what is not freely given to you. So we don't like to see ourselves as thieves who steal. Yeah, because we don't put on a mask and break into people's house in the middle of the night. But do you take things that haven't been freely given to you, especially at your workplace? Maybe. Okay. Okay, killing, stealing, unwise and unkind sexual behavior. Okay, so this principally means that if you are in a relationship, married or not, you go with somebody outside your relationship, or if you're single, you go with somebody who's in a relationship. Yeah, that causes a lot of havoc in families. So those are the first 3 physical ones. Then there's 4 verbal ones. Lying. Yeah, but we don't lie, do we? Yeah, we just exaggerate a little bit, tell something in a slightly different manner. Yeah, but lying is what politicians do. Yeah, not us, right? Well, think again. Okay, lying. Divisive speech. Divisive speech is when 2 people are in harmony, but we say things that make them quarrel, that alienate them from each other. Okay, so this happens a lot when we talk behind other people's back. Okay, did you hear what they did? Yeah, so that this person now doesn't like that person. And especially if that person harmed me, I'm mad. I go to my friends and I vent, oh, did you hear this person did this and that and the other thing? They were so harmful to me. So that my friend will side with me against that person. Okay, that's why they're my friend, because they side with me. If they didn't side with me, they would be my enemy like that other person. Okay, so divisive speech. Harsh words. What you say to people when you're mad. Sometimes you say it loudly and repeatedly in case they're hard of hearing or have short-term memory loss. You remind them of it again and again. Yeah, but some of us are much more clever with our harsh speech. We know exactly, especially with people we know well, especially with family members, we know what their buttons are, what the things are that they're sensitive to. And we take great joy in pushing their button, especially at family meals. Yeah. Yeah, pushing, because I've been jealous of whoever else in the family for a long time. I push their button by saying some sweet, innocent remark that I know deals with an issue that's sensitive to them. And then when they look hurt or they get upset, I say, what are you upset about? Yeah, you're just exaggerating. You're projecting. I didn't mean to harm you. I got even. Oh, no. Okay, that's also harsh speech. Okay, and then one of our favorites, idle talk. Yeah, so let's gossip a little bit. Okay, and so those are the 4 verbal ones. Then there's 3 mental ones, okay? The first one, yeah, is encouraged. Well, all of them are encouraged in our society. The first one is, yeah, we want other people's possessions. Yeah, so that's called marketing. People market, yeah, to try and convince us to buy certain things, right? Even though we don't need them, even though we already share more than our fair, we already have more than our fair share of the world's resources. Yeah, we look at something nice in the window shopping, yeah, and you go, wow, I want that. So it could be sports equipment, it could be clothing, it could be the latest iPhone, it could be, whatever it is. And it's like, I want it. Or another way we do this is, when you go in somebody's house and you see beautiful things, yeah, and you say, oh, look at this doily. It's so beautiful. Where did you get this? Hint, 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 give it to me. Yeah, this is so lovely. Where can I get one like it? Yeah. Oh, we pick up, oh, this cup. Look at it with a dragon under it. Oh, I was born in the year of the dragon. I want, where did you get this cup? It's really lovely. Yeah, yeah, put it in my hand. Come on, you can do it. Hint, hint, hint. Okay, so that's the first mental one. Yeah, we plan how to get something we want. Second one is called malice. Yeah, and this is when we plan our revenge. Yeah, somebody hurt your feelings, somebody ripped you off, and took something that is yours, and you want revenge. Okay, so it's wonderful to do. You can plan in your meditation session. Have you ever had a meditation session? Yeah, you're sitting upright, very good posture, your hands like this, eyes lowered. Everybody thinks that you're in samadhi because you don't budge. But inside, I loaned my sibling some money 10 years ago. And they haven't repaid me. And then I loaned them more money 9 years ago, and they still haven't repaid me. How am I going to get even? I've got to let them know that this behavior does not hold water with me. So you're really planning, okay, when I see my brother, sister, I'm going to say this. And then you hear, And you open your eyes, and you're not with your sibling at all. You're in a place with kind people where you're safe. And then the leader of the meditation says, now let's dedicate the merit. Yeah? Anybody ever had a meditation session like that? Yeah, I have. Have you? Yeah, you have the best plan on how to get even. Okay, so that's the mental one. Yeah, done. Yeah, mentally. Okay, then the last one is wrong views. And I think politics relate a lot to ethical conduct. Yeah, they relate a lot. Yeah, because ethical conduct deals with our motivation, and it deals with what we say verbally, what we do physically, and the reasons that we do it. Yeah. So wrong views, this 10th one, is views like it's impossible to become a Buddha. Yeah, we may think that sometimes. Everybody else got Buddha nature, but I don't have any. Where did you get that idea? Okay, so you think I can't become a Buddha. This path is too, enlightenment is too high. The path is too long and too difficult, and I can't do it. It's just, I don't have the capacity. That's a wrong view. Okay. Another wrong view is, well, if I lie or do dirty business deals, but nobody finds out, it's okay. And we often think like that, don't we? Yeah. If I do it, but nobody finds out, then it's not negative. It's not a negative action. Yeah. In other words, we perfect the skill of pulling the wool over other people's eyes. Do you have that expression? Yeah. Pulling the wool over. Yeah. It's like if you're wearing a wool cap and you don't want somebody to see, you pull the cap over their eyes. Yeah. So when we cheat people, when we lie to people, we've pulled the wool over their eyes so that they can't see what the situation really is. And we think, oh yeah, that's not negative, that's fine. Yeah, no karmic result, as long as I don't get caught. Then no problem. Or we think, in other words, what we're saying to ourselves is, there's no ethical dimension to my actions. Yeah. There's no ethical dimension to my actions. Or we think, rebirth, who invented that crazy thought? There's no rebirth. Okay. So, or we think, we are hardwired to be selfish. Maybe you're a scientist, even a neurologist. We have that amygdala back here somewhere. And because of our amygdala, we are hardwired to look out for ourselves and our own benefit and our own life and our own livelihood. So generating bodhicitta is impossible. Okay, that's a wrong view. Because generating bodhicitta is something we can do if we work at it. Okay, but we say, oh, I can't do it because my brain is hardwired to look out for myself. So cherishing others, impossible. Yeah, that sounds like a great reason to be unkind, doesn't it? I'm hardwired. I can't help it. Yeah, my brain makes me do it. That doesn't work if you're a Buddhist. Yeah. Okay. So the difficulty, why with these views, wrong views, why that is actually said to be the most harmful of the 10, is that we, because of having wrong views, we give ourselves permission to do all the other non-virtuous actions. Okay, we make excuses for ourselves to do those things. Okay, so we got all the way through 2 sentences of the paragraph. Yeah, I thought I should leave a few minutes for questions, comments, maybe answers.
I understand the principle of karma, but sometimes you have in your life some illness or sickness or something like that that you take all your life with you. And even if you do understand the karma principle, what can you do about that?
You mean somebody, for example, commits suicide because of a mental illness?
No, for me, I talk for myself. I have a long time muscle disease and muscle diseases,
Yeah.
and back pain, and many times I think, what is my karma? How can I handle with that?
Yeah.
And I think that many people have, if I see my friends, they, well, how can you handle that?
Yeah. Okay. So this could be doing, I'm not a Buddha. I can't tell you the exact karmic cause. Only the Buddha knows this. But it's similar to when we feel physical pain, probably because in the past we caused physical pain to somebody else. Okay? So we're creating the result of our karma. Let me tell you another story. This one's not about me. And this one actually pertains to the perfection of fortitude. Yeah, because part of fortitude is being able to bear, when we're ill or injured and dealing with the pain. Okay, so one of my Dharma friends was doing retreat at Kopan. And in the process of doing retreat, she had a big boil on her cheek. Yeah. Boils, if you've ever had them, they're very painful. Okay, so she had a big boil. One day she was walking around Kopan and a break between her meditation sessions. And she bumped into Lama Zopa. And then she said, "Oh, how are you?" And she goes, "Rinpoche, I have this horrible, painful boil on my cheek." And Rinpoche goes, "Fantastic!" Huh? Huh? What's Rinpoche saying? It's like, "Rinpoche, I want some pity," she's thinking. "I want you to do something to make my boil go away." And instead, he goes, "Fantastic." Yeah. Why? He explained to her. Because that is a manifestation of your negative karma that you created in the past. And that negative karma maybe could have resulted in your being born in a horrible rebirth for eons. But instead, because you're practicing the Dharma, that karma is ripening now in something that you can endure. Yes, a boil hurts, but it's not like being born in a horrible rebirth for eons, you know? And she went, "Yeah, well, yeah, you're right, Yes, it hurts, but it's not going to kill me. I can manage it. I can go to the doctor. I'm not going to crumble from having a boil." And then Rinpoche said, "Yeah, if you think like this, that you're just experiencing the karma that could have ripened in a horrible rebirth, by the power of your practicing the thought training teachings, you are purifying that karma. And it can no longer ripen as a hellish rebirth because it's ripening in having a boil.
Well, first of all, I feel very fortunate to be able to speak to you in person, so thank you for that. Karma aside, I fear in the ethical conduct, you speak a lot about what's meaning for you, for yourself. So if you harm another, you harm yourself. What is your view if you weigh them against each other?
If you
If you weigh them against each other, so between, is it benefiting myself, so that's why I'm motivated to benefit somebody else, or is it benefiting the other?
When I harm someone, I'm benefiting myself?
Well, I'm trying to pose a question about the ethical conduct. Should you be motivated because if you don't harm somebody else, you don't harm yourself?
No, that's ridiculous.
No, but I feel, if
you don't harm others and you don't harm yourself.
Yeah, but if you weigh them against each other,
Yeah.
what is your view on that?
You mean if you're in a difficult situation where you either hurt somebody or you get hurt?
No, it's hard maybe it's because of the language. I want to know whether your motivation comes from not harming somebody else or not harming myself.
It should be not harming either. Yeah. I have an opportunity to do a negative action. I don't do it because I don't want to harm others and I don't want to harm myself.
Thank you.
Yeah. You're not being selfish when you don't want to harm yourself.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah. Sometimes, it's interesting. Sometimes we have the idea that to be compassionate, we have to suffer. I'm only compassionate, I'm only benefiting myself. Where did we get that idea? Well, the images we saw when we were little kids. Look who's the most compassionate one alive. Well, no, who's dead because he's hanging on a cross. You should be compassionate like this. This is not, no. Okay. If you voluntarily take on suffering because it will benefit others, okay. But to think I cannot be happy unless I'm suffering, I cannot be compassionate unless I'm suffering, that is false.
Thank you so much for this teaching. My question is about what you were talking about earlier related to victimizing oneself from what has been done to you in the past by others. And I had to think back about what is used a lot in Western psychology, the inner child, and taking care of the inner child and embracing it, those kind of things. Could you elaborate a little bit what the Buddhist perspective on that concept or idea is?
Well, I got to tell you another story. See, I told you, when you travel, you gather stories. So years ago, when the inner child kind of became a big thing, I was at a conference and the plenary speaker was speaking about the inner child. And he gave an example from his own life. He grew up in San Francisco, and in San Francisco, they had the baseball team, the San Francisco Giants, okay? And his father always promised him to take him, when he was a little kid, to the baseball game to see the Giants play. So this was his big thing. I'm going to go to the baseball game with my dad. Well, his dad never took him. So he's a grown man. He was like late 40s, early 50s. And he's talking about his inner child who is in so much pain because his father did not take him to the baseball game when he was little. Now, back to my life. If I had complained about something like that, my mother would have looked at me and said, "You wait, young lady, I'm going to give you something to complain about." And then I would really get in trouble. Yeah. I felt really bad for this man. He's so stuck on something that, like that, yes, it symbolized to him that his father didn't care for him. But he didn't say that. He said, he didn't take me to the baseball game. And I thought, wow, he's so trapped in going over and over and over that incident, or, many times, that he's suffering now when it is not happening. Yeah. If he wants to go to the Giants, he can go by himself. He can go with a friend. He can invite his father. I thought, wow, and it really made me think that this whole thing of inner child, if it, I know that it was thought as something to benefit people, but it seemed, at least in this person, who was the speaker, the plenary speaker, talking about your inner child, that it just trapped people in bad feelings due to what is not happening now. Yeah. Now, I do think, we all grew up with problems, okay? Anybody here who didn't grow up with problems? Yes, our life could have been better, okay? I was mad at my parents for various things, but why was I mad? When I encountered Buddha Dharma, why was I so mad? Yeah, because I was a brat. And I just thought about myself. Yeah, just me, 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 me. I remember after maybe my 5th birthday party, yeah, my parents had a birthday party for me. After the birthday party was over, I went into a corner and sobbed. Why? Because it would be another year before I had another birthday. Like, so, when I grew up and when I started meditating on the kindness of sentient beings, especially the kindness of my parents, I realized, wow, they have done so much for me. Okay, there's other things they could have done, but my mom had cancer when I was 10 years old. When I was 3 years old and they moved from one state to the other, my dad had a slip disc and he couldn't work, and they have 2 small children. It's like, what did they go through to raise me, and how all I did was think about me and what I want. And the Buddhist teachings, on the kindness of the parents, they were difficult for me to start with because I had some anger. But when I really looked at the situation, it's like, I cannot be angry. They did so much for me. I'm alive. When I was a baby, I couldn't even roll over by myself, let alone get food. Yeah, let alone put a blankie on me when I was cold. When you really think of what parents do, especially your mom, if somebody cried in the middle of the night and expected me to get up and feed them, it's like, forget it, you know? Yeah. If you did that, you know? Either if you did that, you know, middle of the night, I want more food. I say, shut up, go back to sleep. You know, but what did my parents do for me for how many years? Every single night, not just one time. But mothers, you know this. You have to get up in the middle of the night several times, you know, and feed a sobbing infant who does not say thank you. Yeah. Okay. So that really changed my mind a lot about it.
So this is a little bit scary question to ask in a Buddhist retreat. Just a little background, like to make myself clear. So I was at a Buddhist monastery last year, maybe, or 2 years ago, and just getting to know everything. And the question of, well, you mentioned it too, rebirth came up. And rebirth, yes. So I casually said, oh, I don't believe in rebirth. And the reaction I got, that was the first time I realized, oh, it's a big deal. Because for me, it was not such a big deal. That like, to have an opinion on it. So that's when I studied a little bit more, and then I realized it's a very big question, and it's tied up with karma, and there are very strong opinions on it. And because for many Buddhist scholars, maybe if you don't believe in rebirth, that also negates the concept of karma, because it logically does not, you can't have both at the same time. So then I thought more about it, and for me it wasn't a question of believing in rebirth or not, it just never came up. It did not seem, it seemed like one of those things I don't need to decide or know, because whatever choices I make, they are good or bad. Whether they're good or bad doesn't change whether I believe in rebirth or not. So the kind of life I want to live will be the same if I had one life or if it was many lives. So that's kind of the decision I reached, that it's not helpful to try to keep on studying or trying to decide the philosophical aspects of it. It can just be set aside. I don't believe against it, I don't believe with it, because it doesn't matter to my practice or the way I treat people. And it seems in the end, the only thing that where it mattered was if you believe in rebirth, then you have multiple lifetimes to get somewhere. And if you don't, then it's one lifetime. Yeah. So that's sort of where I reached. And so is it wrong view? Like just setting it aside? Because you mentioned earlier it as an example of...
Setting it aside, you know, is not a wrong view, because you're taking just a neutral thing. I don't know. Okay? His Holiness Dalai Lama says, you know, if you're undecided, it's sometimes helpful to think about, well, go on the side of maybe there is rebirth. Because if when you die, there is rebirth, and because of that you've kept a good livelihood and a good life, then you're in good shape. But if but if you just kind of did whatever you wanted to, thinking that there's no ethical dimension, and then it winds up that there is rebirth, then you have some problems. Okay? So, you know, it's up to you. I think I tell people, you know, if it doesn't make sense to you, you know, put it on the back burner. Don't toss it out and say there's no rebirth, but just put it on the back burner. revisit it from time to time, you know, and hear stories of people who remember previous lives. Yeah, and there's a whole logic behind rebirth. And this is, personally speaking, why I changed my view, because I had never thought about rebirth before. I was not brought up with that idea. But when I heard the logic behind it, it made a lot of sense to me.
Well, it's a more technical question. At the beginning, you said that the path is the cause for the result of becoming enlightened. And we were talking about causes and cooperative conditions. So I was wondering, is the path the cause? Is it cooperative condition? What is it?
Okay, well, I think when you're practicing the path, you're doing virtuous actions. Yeah, your mind is changing because you're generating good motivations. Yeah, and that acts, your mind changing like that is, let's say you start developing. We all have some compassion now. As you practice, your compassion develops, and that becomes the Buddha's compassion. So that is the principal cause of it's the substantial cause of the Buddha's compassion. So that's why the path is the cause, and then the qualities of the Buddha are the result.
Is the path a mind?
Yeah, the path is basically, how your mind changes. Yeah. Okay, it comes out in verbal and physical ways, but it's basically your mind change. Yeah, because this body doesn't go to enlightenment. Yeah, your voice doesn't go to enlightenment, but your qualities, become the Buddha's qualities, and then they manifest in the kind of body a Buddha has, the kind of speech a Buddha has.